Thank you. Good evening. Thank you to all of you for coming here this evening and for showing your support and remembering this important part of history. I'd like to give a special thank you to the Polish Embassy, the ambassador, and all of the staff, the University of Iceland, the representatives we have here, and the other panelists for joining us this evening, as well as Annette, who came all the way from Sweden to share with us unique perspectives and stories. Tonight we commemorate the Holocaust. We commemorate the 6 million Jews and others who were systematically murdered in what was intended to be the final solution of all Europe's Jews. Today we commemorate millions of Jews, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, even babies, entire communities who were exterminated for no other reason other than being Jewish. The fact that you are present here today speaks louder than words. The fact that you are present here today shows that you believe in making this world a better place. My grandfather, his name was Rabbi Feldman, born in a small Polish city near Krakow called Skalo, or Skalov, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He had a wonderful childhood, growing up with his loving family, friends, and neighbors. When Mendel was 15 years old, the Nazis marched into Poland. His town was too small to have a ghetto, but Jews were forced to wear yellow stars of David on their clothes and coats so they could be easily identified as Jews. It was in 1942, a few days before Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, when the Germans gathered 10,000 men, women, and children from the entire area and forced them into an empty field. For 4 days, the old and young were outside in the freezing cold, under the open sky. It is impossible to describe the horrific conditions that they went through. After 4 days, the Germans separated the strong men and women from the rest of the group and sent them to work camps. Everyone else, the old, the children, and the infants, were sent to death camps. Mendel, my grandfather, and his 2 brothers were sent to the work camps. Never again would they see their parents, grandmother, and 17-year-old sister Leah. After the camps were liberated in 1945, 75 years ago, the prisoners were put in ambulances and sent to different countries to recuperate. Mendel's brother Nachum was lying in the ambulance when they passed Bergen-Belsen. He saw a familiar face and asked if he had seen his brother Mendel. The man told him that his brother Mendel was in a nearby camp. Nachum was very weak, but he left the ambulance and began walking. He was still wearing his prison garb from the concentration camp. He walked 3 kilometers and suddenly saw his brother Mendel approaching him. They both began running towards each other, fell into each other's arms, and cried and cried. Unfortunately, all of their siblings, parents, and grandparents never made it. They were murdered in the gas chambers. Today, we remember them and the millions of Jews and others, entire communities who were exterminated. Today, 75 years after the liberation of Auschwitz, it is up to us to not only remember them, but to continue their legacy, continue their lives that were so brutally chopped down. Thank God we now live in a free world where Jews and others could practice their faith freely. We should be proud Jews, proud of our tradition and heritage. We should support Jews, support others who practice their faith, even though it may be different to ours. And in this way, we could carry on the legacy of the millions who were wiped out. The Holocaust was carried out by a nation who were considered to be the most advanced and the most modern people of the world. And yet, they were able to commit the worst crimes in human history. How did this come about? It didn't happen overnight. It was years of demonizing Jews, years of hate, and years of intolerance. My friends, while it is our responsibility to remember those who were murdered, it is also our responsibility to go out of our way to show respect to others. The lessons of the Holocaust are very important today. Our words have tremendous impact. We have this responsibility to speak about others with respect, to speak to each other with respect. Hate and bigotry is what laid the groundwork for the Holocaust. Today, we need to fight hate and intolerance with love, respect, and tolerance. We need to recognize and remember that we are all created by the same God. God in the Torah, the Bible, teaches us of the sanctity of life, the immeasurable value of every single individual. We cannot only respect others because it makes sense to do so. We must respect all people because God commanded us to do so. And it is therefore not up to us to decide who might be an exception to this rule, God forbid. I would like to share with you a story. It was on one of the many trains heading from the ghettos to the death camps. This particular train was heading to the Treblinka death camp. In the midst of the terror, the crying, and the despair, a single voice could be heard singing. His name was Azriel David Fastig. He was the cantor of the saintly Majitzer Rebbe. People thought he had lost his mind. But Azriel's sweet and heavenly voice continued the soulful tune. He sang the words Ani Ma'amin, I believe. It is a song describing our nation's undying faith that the world would one day be a place of universal peace, tranquility, and human dignity. Gradually, people around him joined in the singing. First quietly, but then louder and louder. Soon the song spread from car to car. Anyone who could, anyone who had some breath, joined in the song of Ani Ma'amin, I believe. Azriel suddenly tore a piece off of his shirt and jotted down the notes of the new composition. He then called out, I will give half of my share in the world to come to whoever promises to bring this song to the Majitzer Rebbe who had fled to the United States. First there was silence, but then two young men stood up and promised to bring the song to the Rebbe at any cost. Bidding farewell to their sisters and brothers, they climbed out of the train through a hole they broke in the roof. One was shot, but the other miraculously survived. It was just after the war, on Yom Kippur, the holiest day on the Jewish calendar. Thousands of people packed in a New York synagogue began singing Ani Ma'amin, I believe. The Majitzer Rebbe then declared, on their journey to the gas chambers, this song was born from the ashes of millions. And it is through this song that their voices shall continue to be heard, beckoning us to carry forth the torch of human decency until all of God's children are touched by its light. My friends, may we each do our part in carrying this torch and sharing its light with the people in our lives. Thank you. Excellent job. Excellent.